Hi everyone, this is Jay Beeks, your instructor for the Impacts of Recreational Use EPM 4108. I hope you all had a great summer. I had a pretty reasonable summer. I was able to get a little bit of a vacation, and I've been doing some research on a couple projects, and then teaching some teach-out courses for capstone courses at Marylhurst University for their Green MBA program. As you know, our main reading resources for this course are Studies in Outdoor Recreation by Manning, which is a pretty good book. I was interested to find out that it was all in APA formatting, which makes it maybe not so enjoyable to read, but it's definitely an academic type of a writing resource. And then the book that we have that's the main resource is the Managing Outdoor Recreation Case Studies in the National Parks. A little bit about myself. This is my first course teaching at the University College. My background is primarily in engineering, actually, and science. I've worked for consulting firms, 2 large electric utilities, and then for the state of Oregon. My education actually started with a BS in mechanical engineering from the University of Arizona. I then went on to get a Green MBA from Marylhurst University, an MS in Environmental Science from the Oregon Graduate Institute, and an MS in Civil Engineering here from Portland State University. And then finally I completed my education with a PhD in sustainability with an emphasis on leadership from the California Institute of Integral Studies. But I think more applicable to this course, I have about 20 years of leadership experience, primarily teaching online now. But I have a real passion for parks, with Oregon State Parks. I had a group of about 22 individuals working for me, and we worked on a whole slew of projects across the state. I think in the 10 years I was there, we completed about 800 projects. We served over 100 park managers, and all in all, we had about 330 parks in the state, with about a little more than 100 of those being overnight parks. In fact, my last big project was a $20 million project not too far from where I live here now at the Stubbs Stewart State Park. So that was the biggest project I had in those 10 years. We had to complete this park. They had 2 overnight loops. We had equestrian camping. We put in over a dozen buildings. The whole park covered about, let me think back on this now. It was about 5,600 acres, and we developed about, say, 6% of those 5,600 some acres. So right now I'm teaching at Arizona State University. I teach an MS in Sustainability Leadership there program. I teach 3 leadership classes actually. I'm teaching at Marylhurst University for their Green MBA program. I also teach at the University of St. Francis for their MS in Sustainability Management program, and now I'm teaching here at Denver University with this first course, which is in Impacts of Recreational Use. But again, I think the most applicable work or education that I have for this course is going to be my experience with state parks. And I thought it'd be kind of cool for all of you to see this area behind me here. This is actually my back porch. My wife and I live in a small townhome in Hillsboro, Oregon. And behind us is an urban city park for the city of Hillsboro. This is a small park. It's what I would call a temperate forest park, typical of the Northwest. And I'll discuss this a little bit more as I swing the camera around. It's actually my laptop here, but I'll discuss it a little bit more. This park is about 22 acres. Most of it is wild, pretty natural park. It does have a half-mile walking trail in it, and then it's part of a linear park network that goes on for about 4 or 5 miles, both to the south and the north of me, following Rock Creek, which runs right through the middle of this park. And then we've got, I'd say about 3 or 4 acres of it is actually developed for disc golfing. So that's a big pastime here. There's always some disc golfers out there, really even in the dead of winter. So I'm going to rotate this laptop around and show you a little bit more of Orchard Park behind me. And hopefully you can hear me okay. I haven't actually tried this before. So, not sure how well you can see this, but you can see behind me we've got some evergreen trees. These are primarily Douglas fir, which is the one of the more predominant conifers in the Northwest here. This tree right next to me here with some hummingbird feeders is it's a large maple tree that goes right up against the side of my deck here. And you can see over to the north here, you can see some small western red cedars, more Douglas fir trees. I think you can probably see a maple tree over there. I'm not sure what that evergreen broadleaf is, but it is an evergreen. It doesn't shed its leaves in the winter. And this little dip here, this little swale back here, I call it a bioswale. It's actually the city calls it a water quality facility, and it treats stormwater before the stormwater then goes into the adjacent creek, which is Rock Creek. So I can't really show you what's on the other side of these trees, but there are some wetlands back there. There's a disc golf course. There's that half-mile hiking loop. Some really interesting species, and we get a lot of birds back here. I've counted over 30 different bird species back here, and you may even see some of them while I'm talking here. In fact, there's a stellar jay over there. There's lots of chickadees, lots of sparrows, crows, an occasional red-tailed hawk. We even have a couple of great horned owls that perch up in these trees here. Really quite a few species, considering that we're in an urban environment. So, yeah, I'm not sure how much you can see, but I'm kind of trying to show you a little bit of a panoramic view, and I'll get back on screen here. So this is I think a good example of an urban park. And I think let's see if you've got me back here, I can't tell. Anyway, it's an urban park, and it's relatively small, but I think it shows the value of having an urban setting that is next to an area that's fairly high concentration of population. We've got in this area a population of about 250,000 in Washington County. There are several facilities near here. There's an Intel facility that has over 20,000 employees. And I think the city has done a great job of incorporating parks in with the population. So, actually one thing I didn't get out of the book, which I think is important, is that there's a big difference between a city park, a state park, and a federal park, such as a national park or U.S. Forest Service park. The federal parks tend to be more for resource protection, and then on the opposite end of the spectrum, a city park tends to be more towards recreation use, and state parks try to find their happy medium in between. So state parks may go a little bit more towards the recreation side, but a lot of them tend to be more towards the resource protection side. And there's some interesting differences too between national parks and U.S. Forest Service parks, particularly in the way they protect their forests in terms of management, how they manage their forests. But I'm sure we'll get into that in the course. So I'm going to try to wrap this up here. I hope you enjoyed it from my backyard and of a small urban park setting. And I look forward to this course with all of you, and I'll see you soon.